When I inherited my great-aunt's old Victorian house, I thought it would be an interesting project. I was 31 and a freelance historian, so it felt like a good way to document its history too. The house was falling apart, surrounded by wild gardens. It felt quiet and a bit eerie, but that was just how old houses were, right? On my first night, I unpacked a few boxes and settled down. I felt calm until I heard faint whispers. They seemed to come from the attic. At first, I ignored them, thinking it was just the house creaking. It wasn't until I lay in bed that night that I realized I might have been wrong. I couldn't shake the whispers. Curiosity got the better of me, and I knew I should probably forget it, but I didn't. The next morning, sunlight poured in through dirty windows. I walked through the house, looking into rooms filled with dust and forgotten things. The whispers were growing clearer. I swear I started to hear a girl's voice. It sounded like a child named Violet. I became fascinated by her story. I found old journals and letters scattered around, piecing together her past. Violet had lived in the house long ago, around 1871, and she seemed obsessed with some local tragedy. Each night, as I researched more about her, the whispers became more insistent. I wondered if I was imagining things. I spent hours alone. Maybe my mind was playing tricks on me. I felt nervous. Odd things started happening too. Books I left closed would be open in the morning, always to the same page. Pictures that hung straight would shift positions overnight. It got so cold at night. The laughter echoed through the halls, sweet but haunting. I didn't tell anyone about it. I didn't want to sound paranoid. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but deep down, I was worried. Was there more to Violet than I understood? The line between history and something darker was blurring. Finally, I decided to face the whispers. One evening, I stood at the attic door, my heart racing. The air felt thick, like I was being watched. I hesitated. What if it was more than whispers? I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. I expected to see something, hear something, but the whispering stopped. Then, just behind me, I heard a soft giggle. I turned quickly. There was nobody there. My heart raced even faster. I felt a chill run down my spine. I scanned the dim attic, but it was empty. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I was scared. The whispers called me deeper into the darkness. I thought about Violet and her story. I realized I had to know more. But as I stood in the attic, I felt the air shift, and I couldn't help but wonder. Was Violet reaching out from the past, or was something darker waiting for me? I didn't know what to do. All I knew was that the whispers wouldn't leave me alone. I couldn't shake the odd sensation that something was watching me. I stepped back from the attic and closed the door behind me, the old wood creaking under my hand. I tried to breathe normally, but each inhalation felt heavy with fear. I headed down the narrow staircase, my own footsteps echoing in the stillness of the home. I needed answers. The sun was still shining brightly outside, so I grabbed my notebook and headed to the local library. If Violet had been consumed by some local tragedy, maybe the townsfolk had whispered about it too. When I arrived, the library felt alive with sunlight filtering through tall windows, but my mind was elsewhere. I scanned the history section, looking for anything connected to Violet. As I flipped through old newspapers, I came across a headline that made my heart drop. Mysterious disappearance of local girl shrouded in mystery. I rushed to sit at a nearby table, my hands trembling. As I read through the clipped articles, a name struck me. Dahlia Hawthorne. She was Violet's best friend, and they had gone missing together. My heart raced even more as I read about search parties and townsfolk who reported strange sightings near the old mill where they often played. The whispers had escalated, and now they felt like a warning. Feeling a need to find more, I asked the librarian about Dahlia. She looked puzzled at first but eventually directed me to an old town ledger that might have what I was seeking. I was grateful for the help, but my mind swarmed with thoughts. Was Dahlia's disappearance tied to Violet somehow? After hours of searching, I finally found the ledger. The pages were yellowed and brittle. I traced my finger down the list of names, and when I found Dahlia's, another name caught my eye: Samuel Mueller, a name I hadn't seen before. The entries mentioned a troubled young man connected to the girl's last known whereabouts. I flipped the page frantically. That was when I saw it. A crude drawing scrawled on the side. It showed two girls holding hands, but the space between them was filled with dark, swirling shapes. I felt a chill run down my spine as I read a single line beneath the drawing. He took them from us. Suddenly, a noise startled me. A loud crash came from the back of the library. It echoed in the quiet space, sending a jolt through my body. I glanced toward the sound, heart pounding. Was someone else in here? I stood slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. I peered around, expecting to see a janitor or another patron, but the section was empty. Just as the anxiety began to seep in, the lights flickered. My breath caught in my throat. That was when I felt it again, the whispers, clearer now, calling my name from the direction of the noise. The air felt charged, and dread washed over me. I had to find out what was happening. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I walked toward the back of the library, my footsteps echoing in the tense silence. I had come searching for answers, but what I found might be more than I bargained for. I stepped cautiously toward the back of the library, my pulse quickening with every step. The air felt heavy, like I was walking through fog. I reached the corner where the noise had come from, peering into the dimly lit section of the library. Shadows danced along the walls, but there was still no sign of a person, just a faint rattling sound, as if something was sliding across the floor. I took a deep breath and pushed the door to the storage room ajar. The hinges creaked ominously. Inside, stacks of dusty boxes lined the walls, and the chilly air sent a shiver down my spine. I dared to call out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" The only response was silence, stretching out like a thin wire. Just as I was about to turn back, my eyes caught a glimpse of something at the far end of the room, a flicker of light. It danced like a candle in the dark, beckoning me closer. I moved toward it, drawn by an unexplainable urge. As I got nearer, I noticed that the light was coming from an old lantern sitting on a table, illuminating an open book that looked just as ancient. As I approached the table, my curiosity outweighing my fear. The book was filled with handwritten notes, dense and cramped, in a script I could barely decipher. Names were scribbled in the margins. Dahlia Hawthorne, Violet Mueller, and prominently, Samuel Mueller. My fingers trembled as I flipped the pages, revealing entries that detailed the unusual behavior of the townsfolk leading to the girl's disappearance. A chilling pattern emerged, a fear that suffocated the very community I lived in. Then, something caught my eye, a specific entry from the year of Violet and Dahlia's disappearance. It read, "They say he sings to them in the woods, beckoning them closer with promises. They won't listen, but he knows all their secrets." An ice-cold wave of realization crashed over me. Was Samuel that he? What did he want from them? Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, swirling around me. They were no longer just a distant echo. "Help us!" they cried in unison, sending ice through my veins. My heart raced, and panic bubbled inside me. I dropped the book, but the whispers only intensified. "Help us!" they pleaded again, echoing in my mind. That I staggered back, nearly tripping over the lantern. The door slammed shut behind me with a crash, cutting off my exit. I turned, frantic, and pounded on the door, but it wouldn't budge. My breath came in gasps. Someone or something didn't want me to leave. Then everything went dark. The lantern flickered and went out, plunging the room into a suffocating blackness. Spirals of fear twisted within me, mixing with the frantic whispers. I felt a presence looming in the shadows, heavier than any darkness I had ever known. Gathering my shaky resolve, I whispered, "Who are you?" My voice barely broke through the weight around me, but I felt it. All the eyes in the dark were fixed on me, and I wasn't alone anymore. Then, an answer came, clear and chilling. "We waited for you." I barely had time to process that chilling statement before the whispers began again, sharper and more urgent. "Help us!" They cut through the darkness like knives, each plea filled with desperation. My heart pounded against my chest. I felt trapped in a nightmare with no way out. I stumbled backward, my feet searching for solid ground in the pitch-black room. My fingers grazed the edge of the table, and for a fleeting moment, I thought of grabbing the lantern to shed light on whatever was happening. But the air seemed to thicken, pressing down on me as if warning me not to move. I felt time stretch infinitely, and the whispers morphed into shapes around me, fragments of fear, regret, and sorrow. Why here? Why me? I shouted, my voice barely a whisper amidst the chorus. Fear twisted my stomach, but part of me needed to understand. Because you seek the truth, came the reply, laced with sorrow. You're the only one left. The only one left. The words echoed in my mind. It wasn't just the names in the book that haunted me. It was the implications. I thought of everything I had brushed aside, the little flickers of unease from neighbors, the half-formed stories about lost girls, the murmurs about Samuel. They didn't just vanish into thin air. They were taken. Who took them? I pressed, desperation bleeding into my voice. Who is Samuel to you? The whispers quieted suddenly, creating a tense silence that felt more dangerous than the noise. Then the air shifted, tickling my skin like a warning. I felt a cold breeze sweep through the room, and the whispers transformed. No longer pleading, they recited names, dozens of names, echoing through the blackness, names I had heard over the years, and names I had never known. Dahlia, Violet, Rosalind, Amelia. Each name sent a chill down my spine, threading together a tapestry of sorrow and pain. It was as if the room had become a hall of echoes, capturing every secret the town had buried. And then I realized some of those names didn't belong to girls who had gone missing. They belonged to those who had stayed. They were still here, somehow trapped along with me in this dark chamber. The weight of their unfinished stories pressed down on me, forming a tight knot in my chest. Suddenly, the door that had been sealed shut swung open with a loud bang, slicing through the silence. Light spilled into the room, momentarily blinding me. Instinctively, I shielded my eyes. Was this a way out, or was something else waiting beyond the threshold? Before I could decide, a figure stepped into the doorway. I squinted, straining to see who it was. The light revealed a silhouette, and the familiar outline felt both welcoming and menacing at the same time. Come with me, the figure said softly, lifting their hand as though beckoning me closer, against every instinct screaming for caution. My legs moved forward, pulled by an undeniable magnetic force. But I knew I had to be careful. The truth could be hiding in more shadows than I anticipated. As I crossed the threshold into the light, dread knotted itself in my gut. What awaited me beyond it? And would I truly find the answers to the questions whispering through the darkness? The light enveloped me, warm and disorienting. I blinked hard, desperate to adjust. When my eyes finally focused, I saw her. It was Violet. Her face was pale, yet her eyes burned with an intensity one could hardly comprehend. You shouldn't be here, she said, her voice steady, despite the urgency in her eyes. Violet, what is happening? I stammered, glancing back at the darkness from which I had just emerged. Shadows loomed at the edge of the doorway, threatening to swallow me whole again. What did you mean earlier? About the truth. Follow me, she insisted, turning away from me without waiting for a response. I hesitated, glancing back toward the open door, but my feet followed her instinctively. She led me down a narrow hallway wallpapered in faded floral patterns. The air smelled musty and old, filled with the weight of forgotten memories. Each step felt heavier, as if the house was pulling me back. Why should I trust you? I asked, my voice faltering. Violet paused, turning to face me. I know what they took. I know the truth you seek. But you must listen and do exactly as I say. What are you talking about? I pressed, heart racing. Who are they? They are the ones who never stopped looking for you, she said, urgency creeping back into her voice. Samuel has been waiting. You have to be careful. Waiting for what? Waiting for you to find the final piece, she replied, a flicker of fear crossing her face. The last name. You have it inside you. My head spun. Names, whispers, shadows. All of it was too much. What last name? I demanded, my frustration boiling over. Behind Violet, I noticed a door slightly ajar, a sliver of light spilling through. Before I could react, a figure emerged from the shadows. "It's her," he said, his voice low and menacing. "You shouldn't have brought her here." Panic surged through me. The figure stepped closer, and I recognized his face. "Samuel." My breath caught in my throat. "What do you want? Your curiosity will be your undoing." His tone was calm, but there was a darkness lurking just beneath the surface. "The truth leads to pain. Are you prepared for that?" I looked at Violet, but she was no longer beside me. I felt a surge of fear as I spun around. Violet had vanished into thin air, leaving me alone with him. "Where is she?" I asked, my voice trembling. "She'll return," Samuel replied, his expression unreadable. "But now you're with me. The truth requires sacrifices, and I'll find out if you're really willing to uncover it." Suddenly, the hallway trembled, and the wallpaper began to peel away, revealing a darker space behind it. My heart raced as I scrambled to find an escape route, but the walls seemed to press closer together, closing off my options. "That S when I saw it," Samuel said, a cruel smile creeping across his face. "The names. All of the names." Frozen in fear, I could feel my resolve beginning to shake. What could be more terrifying than the truth? The walls squeezed in tighter, and I backed away from Samuel, my heart pounding. I could barely think as fear clouded my mind. "What do you mean, all the names?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He stepped closer, his gaze piercing into me. "There are names that bind you to this place, to Violet and to me. You were never meant to forget." His words slithered through the air like a serpent, each syllable wrapping around me. Squeezing tighter, I glanced down the hallway, debating whether to run. The peeling wallpaper revealed dark voids that pulsed with an ominous energy. What did Violet mean by the last name? I pressed on, hoping for an answer that could salvage my sanity. "The last name is the key, but you have to remember it," Samuel said, his voice dropping to a whisper that sent a chill down my spine. "You're just a pawn without it." My mind raced. "A pawn in what?" Samuel laughed softly, a sound devoid of real humor. "In a game far beyond your comprehension. One where those who know too much pay the highest price." The shadows seemed to stretch behind him. I could almost hear them whispering, as if beckoning me to join them. Horror gripped me as I fought the urge to scream and run. But instead, the anger surged. "You think you can scare me into submission? You're wrong." "Oh, I don't need to scare you," he replied, tilting his head, appraising me with a predator-esque gaze. "You're already trapped within your own doubts and fears. You've lost your way, and I'm here to guide you." In that moment, Violet's words echoed in my mind. "Be careful of who you trust." I needed to stand my ground. "I want nothing from you. Yet here you are," Samuel mused, stepping back slightly, entranced by your own confusion. "Tell me, what do you really want?" I opened my mouth to respond but stopped. What did I want? Clarity? Safety? Or perhaps just the truth? I needed to escape this room, to find Violet and understand what was happening. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I want to leave. Do you think that's an option?" Samuel asked, an unsettling gleam in his eye. Then his expression shifted, suddenly serious. "You have two choices before you, and I suggest you choose wisely." My body tensed, every instinct screaming at me to flee. The walls once again trembled, shaking loose more chunks of wallpaper, leaving jagged gaps. Behind him, the open door beckoned my one chance at freedom. Before I could think about it, I took a step, then another. Samuel's laughter echoed behind me. "You think you can escape the truth? You'll be back just like all the others." I felt my pulse quicken as I sprinted toward the door. As I reached it, I caught a glimpse of myself in the fractured reflections of the glass-wide eyes and a look of desperation. That S when I heard it. A whisper, soft but clear. "Help me." I looked around, terrified. Violet? Or something darker? The world twisted, and I pushed through the door into the unknown, not knowing what awaited me on the other side. I stumbled into a dimly lit corridor just beyond the door. The air was thick with a musty scent, and an unsettling chill surrounded me. My breath quickened as I moved forward, trying to steady my nerves. The only light came from flickering bulbs overhead, casting eerie shadows that danced along the cracked walls. "Help me." The voice felt closer now, filling the empty space around me. It was faint but persistent, like a thread pulling me deeper into the darkness. I strained to listen, hoping to catch another word, another clue. But it faded into silence, leaving only my pounding heart against the backdrop of stillness. I pressed on, the wooden floor creaking beneath my feet. Each step felt heavy, as if the ground beneath me was reluctant to let me go. I could hear my own breathing, harsh and ragged, echoing in the quiet. Panic clawed at my throat. Where was Violet? I turned a corner and stopped. An old door loomed ahead, nearly identical to the one I had just escaped. It was ajar, a muted glow seeping through the crack. Hesitant, I approached, my hand trembling as I reached for the handle. What if Samuel followed me? What if he was waiting for me on the other side? With a deep breath, I pushed it open. The room was small and cluttered, dusty books stacked haphazardly, crumbling papers scattered across a desk. But it was the figure in the corner that caught my breath. A woman stood with her back to me, dressed in a faded white dress, her dark hair cascading down her back. "Violet?" I called softly, taking a tentative step inside. The woman turned slowly. Her face was haunting, etched with shadows. My heart raced. It was her. Before I could say anything, she raised a hand. "You shouldn't be here," she warned, her voice trembling. "You don't understand." "What do you mean?" I asked, my heart pounding. I stepped closer, desperate for answers. "Samuel, he said something about names. About a game." Violet's eyes widened, fear flickering across her features. "He's playing with you. You've got to leave. You can't trust him. Not now. Not ever." "Then why are you here?" I demanded, frustration bubbling up. "What's going on? What do you know?" She took a deep breath. "My name, my last name, connects us. It's what he wants you to remember." "A name?" My mind raced. "What is it?" Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from behind me, making me jump. I turned, my instincts kicking in. The door I had just walked through slammed shut, trapping me in with Violet. Panic surged through me as I turned back to her. "What do we do?" Her face hardened, and she took a few steps back. "You have to find the truth. You're running out of time." That S when I heard it again. The whisper, closer now, almost a chorus, echoing off the walls, swirling through the heavy air. "Help me, help me, Violet," I shouted, desperation creeping into my voice. But her face was blank now, like a hollow shell. She only stared at me, her eyes wide and unblinking. Then everything went dark. A chill swept through the room, stealing my breath. I felt weightless, as if I had been yanked from reality. I blinked, trying to adjust to the void. It was deep and suffocating, the darkness swallowing me whole. Suddenly, the light flickered back on. I gasped as the room materialized around me, but something was different. The old books were gone, the desk had vanished, and I found myself in a cold stone chamber, walls adorned with faded portraits of stern faces staring blankly in my direction. The air felt thick, almost electric. "Where am I?" I murmured, panic rising. My voice echoed, lost in the vast emptiness. I moved forward cautiously, drawn by a flickering flame at the far end of the room. As I stepped closer, I got a clearer view. A single candle flickered on a small altar that I reached out for it, drawn to its warmth. "Violet," I called again, hoping for any sign of her return. But the chamber was silent except for my own racing heartbeat. Then the whispers returned, swirling around me like a ghostly breeze, more pronounced this time. "Help me, help me." The sensation of dread was palpable. I spun around, searching for the source. That S when I noticed a small inscription on the altar, barely visible in the candlelight. It read, "Remember her name." My heart skipped a beat. "Violet," I whispered, feeling a pull toward the heavy shadows at the periphery of the candle's glow. The walls of the chamber shifted slightly, as if breathing. I reached out, my fingers grazing the surface of the old stones. A sudden memory flashed through my mind, a face, familiar yet distant. Another woman, her expression a mix of sorrow and urgency. "Violet, who are you?" I shouted, frustration boiling over. "What do you want from me?" As if in response, a low voice echoed through the room. "Remember her name. She is the key, Violet Mueller." A shudder rippled through me as I recalled the name. It felt wrong, yet it sparked something deep within. A flood of memories surged, images of a woman wearing white. Desperation filled her eyes. I staggered back, almost losing my footing. The walls started to close in, pressing around me. I needed to get out of here. "This is all a game," I shouted, my voice cracking. "You think you can toy with me? Samuel, he can't have me." In that moment, as I tried to steady my breath, I noticed a flicker of movement behind one of the portraits. A figure emerged from the shadows, half hidden, yet undeniably present. My stomach dropped, and I squinted into the darkness. "Who are you?" I demanded, stepping back. But the figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, Violet, but different somehow. Her expression was more haunting, more broken. "Help me," she whispered in a trembling voice before fading back into the shadows, leaving me breathless and on the edge of panic. I needed to find out what was happening, but fear held me in place. I had to remember the name and uncover the truth before whatever darkness that lingered could consume me entirely. I felt my heart pounding in my chest as I stared into the shadows, trying to shake off the vision of Violet's haunted face. "This isn't real," I told myself, feeling the cold stone beneath my bare feet. I had to move to find a way out of this chamber. Turning back toward the altar, I searched for anything that might help me understand. The candle flickered again, casting erratic shapes on the walls. A familiar sense of dread coiled in my stomach as the whispers grew louder. "Help me." The words seemed to swirl around me, brushing against my skin like fingers. I tried to focus, to block out the noise, but it was impossible. I took a deep breath and stepped closer to the altar. The inscription was still there, but I could see more letters now, faint outlines that glowed just beneath the surface. I leaned in, hoping the details would become clearer. My fingers traced the words. "Violet Mueller." Suddenly, a sharp cracking sound filled the air, snapping me from my concentration. I jerked back, and the room trembled as the portraits on the walls seemed to shift, almost leaning closer. I backed away, tripping over a rock on the floor. My mind raced. What now? I muttered to myself, wishing I could just wake up from this nightmare. I had to remember why I was here, what I needed to uncover. Then it hit me. The name, Violet Mueller, was key. But how? I scanned the chamber again, wondering if there was something else here. Something I was missing. That S when I saw it, a faint outline behind one of the portraits. I stepped closer, my breath quickening. With one determined push, I grasped the edge of the frame and pulled it aside. Dust cascaded to the ground, revealing a hidden compartment within the stone wall. Inside, a small box lay tucked away. It was old, the wood darkened with age and the latch covered in cobwebs. My fingers trembled as I reached for it. I felt a surge of energy as if the box held some forgotten truth. "What are you hiding?" I whispered, my voice barely escaping as I unlatched it. It creaked open slowly, revealing fanned-out papers and a small locket. I picked them up, my hands shaking. The papers were letters, stained and faded, but the writing was still legible. "Violet," I breathed, recognizing her name at the top of the first letter. My eyes scanned the page, pulling in the words. It was a confession, one filled with turmoil and regret that I suddenly felt a presence behind me. Chills dipped down my spine as I spun around, expecting to see the woman from the shadows. But there was nothing, just the suffocating silence of the chamber. My heart raced. I was not alone, that I needed to uncover the rest of these secrets. But I didn't know how much more I could take. Then, a crash echoed through the chamber, louder than before. It came from the entrance, a signal that something or someone was coming. I clutched the letters to my chest, heart pounding. Whatever was lurking in the darkness, I knew it wasn't finished with me yet. I had to face it, or risk losing everything I was trying to find. The chamber trembled once more, the walls shuddering as if they were alive, eager to consume me. I could feel the weight of countless eyes bearing down on me, each whisper thrumming relentlessly against my mind. I turned back towards the entrance where the sound had erupted, my heart racing. The air was heavy with anticipation, and dread gripped my gut. Suddenly, the shadows peeled away to reveal Samuel stepping forward, his face twisted with a knowing smile. "You took too long," he said, the echo of his voice sending a shiver through my bones. "You were meant to remember to confront the truth." "Let me go!" I shouted, my voice trembling, desperation creeping into my tone. I glanced between him and the hidden box behind me, every fiber of my being screaming to find a way out. "What truth? What are you hiding?" Samuel stepped closer, the darkness clawing at his heels. "You're part of this. You always were," he said softly, the menace barely masked under layers of calm. "You think you came seeking Violet? She followed you. You're tethered to her story. All those whose names are whispered seek someone to embody their pain." Gritting my teeth, I fought the impulse to retreat, forcing myself to stand firm. I thought of Violet, her pleading eyes, and the echoes of the past that weighed down on me like lead. "I want to be part of your game," I declared, gripping the letters tighter. A flicker of surprise crossed Samuel's face, quickly reshaped by a scornful smirk. "It's not up to you, dear historian. You have everything that matters to them." He pointed at the box, as if acknowledging the generations that had converged here. "Every name you've read, every spirit you've felt yearning for completion, it lies with you." Before I could respond, the chamber pulsed, the shadows lengthening as if they were coming alive. I turned back towards the box, holding the letters out as if they were a shield. I needed to decipher what Violet wanted me to know. "Help me," came another whisper, this time echoing from the very stones of the chamber. The poignant plea cut through the suffocating gloom, igniting a flicker of hope amid the chaos. I could feel the urgency in the air. "What do you want, Violet?" I shouted, feeling the pressure and weight shifting around me. "Find the connection," came the spectral voice, resonating with my own thoughts, tinged with desperation. "Remember the last name that binds us all." Courage coursing through me, I lunged for the box. "Violet's last name," I murmured, confusion washing over me. But what was it? The memories flooded my mind, the scattered notes, the journals, but most of all, the faces of the girls who had come before. As I forced my trembling hands to sift through the letters, words leaped out at me, forming connections in my mind. There it was, a name hidden in plain sight, almost forgotten in the recesses of the letter-S script. Mueller. Violet Mueller. I breathed, each word anchoring me more resolutely to my purpose. Samuel's smug facade began to flicker, his form shifting in the dim light. "You cannot awaken what you do not understand," he warned. But I wasn't done. "But I do understand," I shouted back, recalling the faces and their stories, the echoes of loss that clung to the air. With every declaration, the shadows around Samuel seemed to flinch, as if dragging the weight of their own past behind them. "Violet's name is not just a memory. It's the key to setting all of you free." The walls rattled violently, the air thickening into an oppressive force. I stepped forward, reaching for the candle that flickered, dropping into the darkness of the chamber. "You think you can control this?" Samuel's voice twisted with anger, but my focus remained unbroken. The letters pulsed with the energy of all those who had suffered under his shadow. The whispers rose in frequency, creating an urgent chorus, filling the space around me with a cacophony of pleading voices. "Help me! Free us!" they cried, ganging together in a whirlwind of emotion. I felt power coursing through me, invigorating my defiance. "You are not in control, Samuel," shouted, firmly staring him down. "You've fed off fear for too long. It's time for this to end." The flickering candle exploded, bathing the room in a blinding light. I felt the pull of history swirl fiercely in the air around me. I clutched the letters and shouted, "I remember. I won't let your darkness hold anyone captive any longer." In that moment, the chamber erupted with a deafening roar, and as the light enveloped me, I could see the names etched in the air like burning stars. Violet, Dahlia, Amelia, the faces flashed before me, not in torment but in transcendent release. The darkness shrieked, retreating as the light surged around me, illuminating the truth of their bond. I could feel the weight of Samuel's presence shake beneath the light, the shadows wrestling for dominance. And then, just as quickly as it began, the light faded, and I found myself once again in that cluttered room, the box still open in front of me and silence reigning supreme. Samuel was gone, but the house remained. The whispers had quieted, replaced by the gentle sound of the wind rustling through the trees outside. My breath hitched as I realized the light had not just freed them. It had transformed the space. I still felt a connection, but it wasn't one of fear. Instead, it emanated hope, a lightness in the memories rather than a haunting burden. I moved slowly back towards the main exit, my gut twisted as I glanced back at the remnants of the chamber. Questions lingered like shadows. Had I truly banished the darkness? Would I ever know the true fate of those lost? Even as relief flooded through me, an unsettling thought settled in my core: what became of Samuel? Would he linger on, waiting for another curious soul? I stepped outside and drew in a deep breath, the cool, fresh air invigorating and cleansing. I didn't know everything, and maybe I never would, but I had faced the darkness and chosen to bring to light the stories that mattered. I cast one last glance at the imposing silhouette of the house, a place that had held so many secrets, some now revealed and others forever cloaked in uncertainty. And with that, I turned away, stepping into the unknown, seeking more answers whilst accepting the mysteries that would remain.